It had become late in the night-time, thusky become quiet, even the birds had slept then. It began illegitimate, came from palace earlier than everything. It changed intossimal like a whisper, then it grew louder than louder, all over again it turned. Out to be coming from the princess's room. Human beings wakened, the guards stopped on foot, a maid dropped the bowl in her hand. Event the king and queen sat up in shock. The sound, it wasn't fear. It wasn't ache, it modified into a few component, else satisfaction pride. A deep sound, a loud cry, then silence, then it came once more louder than in advance. Then humans started out asking questions. What's taking vicinity? Is the princess all right? Who is together with her? However, no individual had a solution, but the sound became clean and sturdy, and exquisite villagers near the palace come out in their houses. A few included their mouths, some virtually stared on Thepele's home windows. That sound it got here from her, the identical princess, who in no way smiled at. Love what passed off in that room, what made her cry out like that no one knew, however. One factor modified into smooth, something had modified, and that will you. Essay. Felt it clearly 3 months in advance, then this fateful nighttime, the village of Yumanachi come to be. A placeve piece inexperienced would danced even as the wind bluebirds sang every morning. Thistler touched each rooftop like it had fallen. In love with the land, the humans were happy. There has been continually enough meals. The market modified into Compultalater lived there, however, what Mata Yamanachi definitely shine. Became Princess Shika, she became the most effective infant offking. Okena and Queen Adana, and she or he or ha changed into the most lovable late-eyed village. Had ever seen her splendor have become not loud, it turned into quiet but robust, her skin glowed. Like she bathed in honey and moonlight, her eyes had been sharp. Calm and deep, her lips had been smooth, however not often smiled, her steps had been slow. And entire off satisfaction, just like the floor itself waited for her FT. While she handed via market, even antique men forgo twat, they got here to shop for younger. Men stood straighter seeking out to trap Hirai, however she by no means checked out anybody. For too lengthy she didn't thave to speak to be positioned, she became stated. And she or he knew it, her splendor made her powerful, however her satisfaction made her untouchable. From that time, she had become 18 suitors began to come returned. The maximum effective hunters in Yonachi got here first, then came rich buyers with gold and fabric. After that, smart men from specific villages with books, goats, and insurers of kingdoms, but separately she rejected all of them now. And ins more, she said no with silence. On occasion, she laughed in their face either instances. She surely stated, you aren't enough. The variety grew 100 to 1,047 men had come. And 47 guys had long past Thevelagers started out to speak. They typically dosh can develop antique in that palace separable. Her womb is locked, perhaps a spirit sleeps in her body, or perhaps is cursed. However, Chika did now not care. She walked via the village. Sit along with her head excessive, wearing theffinest wrappers and beads. She looked at absolutely everyone. As even though she must see via their mind, no guide dared touch her Revan. The bravest ones couldn't maintain her gaze for prolonged one nighttime. The kinkled her into his chamber, the sky out of doors had become pink. The crickets had started out to sing. He became seated, wiped out, rubbing his fingers, my daughter. Hesed softly, the time has come. Chika stood in the front of him. Right away, and calm you have got were given, became down every guy you have got were given. Made their families irritated, chiefs are concerned, the dominion waits, why won't you pick? Out Sami and Nekaka checked out him, with normal eyes because of the fact none of them deserve me. She stated the create about riches, power, and exceptional names. He said, what extra do you want? Chika regarded away, her voice have emerged as gentle, but commercial. Enterprise Corporation, I want a man who will no longer fall to his knees, surely. Due to the real I am a princess, I need a person who isn't moved with the resource of splendor. Presence or power, someone who will see Messimion, who will fulfill my desires. The king shook his head. You ask for a shadow, Hugh whispered. Then permit me wait inside the darkest, she responded, that night, my queen. Adona sat on my own in her room, she watched the moon. She lit a candle, and prayed out of doors the palace. Thevelagers saved speak, the king's daughter will grow antique, and not using a little one. She's too proud she thinks she is greater than a woman, but Chika did not pay attention. She walked like a typhoon in slow movement, and in her heart she believed. No guy would possibly ever change that midnight whilst Thevlage slept the queen had a dream. It get here quietly mild at the start, then heavy in the dream. She stood in front of her daughter's chamber, the door have become open, the wind end up. Loud and through, the whole thing become at how. Then from the shadows a black panther walked in sluggish, silent, powerful. It moved beyond the guards, beyond queen straight away into Chika's room then. The scream came the equal scream queen had heard. Many nights earlier than, however, this one became louder, deeper, full of some aspect she could not call. While she tempted to comply with the panther, it ended up prolonged, lengthy gone, only blood have come. To be left on the ground and Chika's voice whispering. A name the queen could not forget. Queen Adona wakened in sweat. Her chest modified into tight, her arms had been shaking. She lit a small lamp and left her bed. She had now not visited priestess of Annie in plenty of years, however this dream have turned out to be now no ordinary. Earlier than sunrise she entered the sacred grove, wherein inside the vintage woman life the priestess modified into blind, her eyes regarded white. Like smoke her pores and skin modified into wrinkled, however her voice became sharp. I apprehend why Europe were right here, she said in advance. Then the queen have to speak. You located the panther. Queen Adana nodded slowly. The priestess sat down on the mat and collected a few white stones. She held them in her palm closed. Her eyes and whispered, then she dropped them. They scattered at the floor. Her blind eyes appeared ahead like she grew to be seeing some element the queen couldn't see. Then she spoke. The most effective who will break her ought to come from floor. Now not the sky, the queen frowned. What does that advise? The priestess didn't answer as a opportunity. She said a short proverb in a slow, deep voice. The tree that bends for the wind will not harm at the same time as storm comes. Then she have become her head to the wall and said not anything else. The queen waited, however the vintage lady stayed silent. The message modified into finished later that middle of the night. Queen Adana sat beside King Anna of their rooms, advised him the entirety that panther. The scream, the blood, the phrases off the priestess, the king modified into quiet for a long time. He rubbed his chin slowly. So a person is coming, he asked. Certain, queen stated. However, no longer a person will anticipate. The king sighed. I do no longer like riddles. Adana, she appeared on the window. Neither do ish whispered. However, in her coronary heart knew some component end up coming. And a few component it changed into it might alternate their daughter all of the time they shanded then. Weeks, however, the queen's dream in no manner left her coronary heart, and the terms of the priestess stayed like a shadow in her mind. But for King Proprietor ready became no longer an opportunity, had became developing worn out. Uninterested in the whispers, uninterested in the silence in his daughter's room, bored with the scenes from the elders, the chiefs, or even the human beings inside the marketplace. Is Princess Chika no longer of age? Does she plan to rule by myself? What's she hiding? What's going to appear to the royal blood lineage? Everywhere the king went someone beckoned asking the identical query. Well, will she marry? And even though no character stated it out loud, the truth have come to be smooth. The humans were dropping staying energy, and so have emerged as he one morning King Anna stood inside the palace courtyard. The sun changed into warm. The drums whistled, however the crowd modified into entire. All the elders, the chiefs, and lots of more youthful men stood ready. Then the king raised his hand and spoke. His voice had become loud and smooth. I have media ramification to the individual. That wins my daughter's heart. I'm capable of deliver him own. Two of my wealth. No longer without a doubt her hand, but lands, gold, farm, animals, power. But if he fails, he ought to part this country, and in no way go back. A heavy silence fell. No character moved. The Noni elder superior, his voice shook a little. My king. That could be essential. Be counted distance of range. Some different elder stated. Is the princess aware about this? The king's face turns into robust. She does now not need Tobe if someone can gain her coronary heart. He also can have my blessing. The elders begin to murmur. They had been shaken. This isn't always definitely marriage. That is warfare. This offer will call men from each nook of the land. This candle over danger. However, whilst the elders whispered in worry, the more youthful guys of Humanachi have been already smiling, some have been laughing, some had been shaking palms. Some appeared immediately at the palace gates dreaming of gold land. An honorable princess as a partner for them, this changed into their risk, their most effective chance. With the aid of nighttime, the facts had spread to each hoot, each move, and each nook of the dominion. The hunt for Princess Chica's coronary heart had all started out. And even Thoth Solar had set the kingdom-weighted insolence due to the truth nobody knew what. Modifi Dinto, about to go into Throth one's gates, the king's term spread like fire, first to the edges of Fumachi, then to the rivers, that to Shedifferent lands speedy every neighboring village had heard the facts. Kingana will deliver one reduce returned to his wealth to the person that wins the princess coronary heart. Younger men packed their baggage of vintage. Men prayed for their sons on jest, so they got here a prayed off suitors, the primary to arrive. Have end up Eric dealer from a blue he got here with 5 carts of yam silk and fragrance. His voice was smooth, his smiley extensive. He stood earlier than the princess and said, "Marry me, and I will wrap you in gold." Princess Chica regarded him up and down, then she said, "Your breath smells like greed." The corridor went silent, that raider became crimson with disgrace and left without a word. Next came a warrior from Abani, he changed into strong his chest. Undergo scars on his palm, Shet raised his spear and shouted, "No guy has beaten me in war, allow me combat." Toyer love Chica leaned forward, Shesmold softly, then stated, "So you can kill for romance. However, are you able to kneel for it?" The warrior's face dropped at the chiefs, regarded away. He stormed Althus, pride heavier than his spear greeter got here. A healer with books, a singer with poems, a prince with 30 servants, one at a time. They stood in advance within her, one at a time. They were reduced down at the sight of her words. She did not improve her voice. She did not want to rise her tongue. Her silence every modifidinto enough to interrupt even the proudest guy. Quickly humans stopped coming to the palace to appearance who may win her coronary heart. They came to peer how she could wreck them. It had end up a show, a lesson Akash known as her the Iron Flower, others known as her the princess without mercy. However, Chica should have turned out to be amused. Every failure made her extra powerful. Every man who walked away gave her extra delight. She can also return to her room, snicker softly to herself and say some other one lengthy gone. No furno softness outstanding the hearth, and her eyes grew the palace. Gates wearing quieter, no fewer guys got here, those who despite the fact that attempted had been extra and lousy lot, a whole lot less confident. Many had been too afraid to even speak after these stood in advance than Chica she had grown to be. A mountain in their eyes tall cold, an unshakable Chica walked through the village greater regularly now. She loved the way humans moved a city at the same time as she handed the manner men persevered to lust. After her beauty she favored Ed's way, moms whispered to their daughters after they observed her, that maybe girl who fears no guy one warm afternoon. She left the palace with maids and walked all of the manor. Right down to the village square. Children ran past her, girls offered spices beneath colorful lumbras. The air smelled of roasted corn and easy palm wine. Then she observed him. He have become status underneath the historical palm tree. The most effective older than village itself, no blouse, without a doubt darkish pores and skin strong shoulders. Hishans were busy tying palm wine bottles with rope. His face turned out to be calm, his eye sharp, but quiet. He did now not flow looking. He did not chally much like the others. He virtually labored centured in spite of the truth that while Chica walked past him, he did not bow, he did not take a look either. Not even once. Something interior her shifted, best a bit, not pain now, not anger. However, unusual tight feeling in her chest. She stopped. She have become slightly, truly sufficient to have a look at them despite the truth. That not anything, her maid whispered. Princess, want do we go with the flow? However, Chica didn't solution. She modifidinto looking for him to notice her headed not later as she decrease. Back to the palace she asked the older maid strolling in the back of her, who is the man or woman beneath the palm tree. The maid smiled that one his name is Sabuka, he faucets palm wine Liz. Via using threshold of the wooded vicinity, does he now know? Not understand who I am the maid chuckled possibly, he's aware of possibly, he doesn't hard. It is not lengthy because he came to a village so human beings do not know a superb deal about him. Chica said no longer something after that, but that night. Times she lay on her bed. Looking on Thesiling her mind went lower back to the rectangular yet again to Ibuka, the person who didn't bow, the man who did no longer stareth individual. That acted like she changed into no one days past then. Weeks, but Ibuka stayed the equal nevertheless beneath the palm tree. Although quiet, however, not looking at her. And for Princess Chica, this have come to be a hassle Avery big one at the start. It became small even as wore her exceptional wrapper. And past Throth usage of the rectangular, he did no longer appearance up the following day. She permit her lengthy scarfall close to his feet as she walked via he did not even look at Itevery. Other day she dispatched a palisegward to provide him a bag of gold helped at the bag then have grow to be returned to his palm wine. The protect got here decreased returned shaking his head he said he could no longer need gold. The guard stated he said have he already got what I want Chica's eyes narrowed. No guy had ever behaved like this not in her village note in her existence. She had broken more potent men with simply one smile she had made warriors stammer. With one stare, however, this Ibuka, he did no longer draw back, he didn't chase more. Like he did not care, and the extra had disregarded her. The extra, her chest burnage, commenced to bypass the rectangular, extrafton constantly dressed. Proper lick instantly taking walks slowly, hoping he would possibly word the sway of her hips theshine. On her skin the electricity in her steps, but he in no manner seemed up high no way regarded times. That night time had a dream in it she became in her chamber. However the walls were length band Ibuka stood on the door he walked within. The direction of her slow, and naked chestedous eyes dark like nighttime time. He touched her cheek lightly, and surely earlier than kissed her. She wakened sweating respiration fast. She sat up in mattress sharest, why cannot I save you questioning? Approximately him shoot whispered to herself she touched her chest, her heart modified into racing it did. Not make enjoy she beckamain to the one on pinnacle of things she come to Betty only. Who made man's dream now, not the other man around, but this. Man this guy with quiet power, and careless eyes had changed into triumphing with outraying. And now the Iron Princess Thelody, who feared no man modified into mandacituare inside the darkish burning. For someone will refuse to have a study her who. Beckameth is Ibuka, and why end up he giving the untouchable princess sleepless nights a few days later. It become a opposition day in Umanachi, the sacred spring grow to befell of colored drums. Echo adat some degree within the hills women danced in circles. Kids threw flowers into the water princess. Chica arrived in heroial wrapper beads on her neck chin raised as constantly the group stepped aside. But this time she wasn't searching at them. She becomes searching for him, and there he turned into through the threshold. Of the group none much less hurtless no matter the reality. That quite ever searching the water nother she walked past him, slowly pretending no longer to take a look at. Butte indoors her chest and up tight she climbed the small rock with the aid of way of Thespring to talk with the excessive priestess bit her foot slipped her body tipped ahead. And in that flash of panic sturdy arms caught her waist, she gasped his fingers held her organization. Their eyes met for one lengthy moment, no person. Else existed no tune, no dancers, no crowd handy Stibicus eyes, simplest his palms on her body handiest. The thunder pounding in her chest, he failed to smile, he did no longer talk, he just held her. Then gently hallow waft and walked away Chica stood there. Breathless her heart end up beating like a drum human beings clapped wandering she were saved. But some lament else had occurred he had touched her. And that single touch had set some element loose internal her that nighttime sat on the brink of. Herbed no laughter, no pleasure, clear listenance, she saved seeing his eyes shustered. Remembering his palms, and she or hated how lots she favored greater she called her maids. Then knowledgeable them to depart, she locked the door, stared on moonlight. at the ground and whispered his name under her breath. Ibaka another time Ibuka like a mystery. She could not manage like a fire she held and placed out her fingers have beans we. Her body burdened for the number one time in her existence she changed. Into gnawing or positive of herself she Princeshika the female, who feared no man had sincerely been shaken with the resource of one that did now not even try to now sleep refused to head back. Only his name stayed together with her over and over. The following day the moon changed into excessive thepalace. Emerge as quiet, no footsteps, no tunes, simply the sound of the wind brushing closer to the partitions in her chambers. Princess Chica sat through the window. Her arms had been cold, her coronary, heart beating fast. She had made appreference a powerful, dangerous, scandalous dare. She had dispatched for Ibuka. Heckham, no guards stopped him, no phrases were spoken. He walked via the empty hallway like he belonged there. Similar to the palace had typically identified him. Chica stood via her door, carrying a smooth upper, no jewels, no crown, definitless skin, and silence. She opened the door, has stepped in, and closed it behind him. Stand there, she said, softly pointing. But he did now not. He walked closer, not rapid, now not slow, virtually Positiva stood earlier than her, so close to she must enjoy his breath. Then he whispered, you don't need strength, you want to be visible, you wear a crown, but you have got in no manner tasted. Give up, I came now, not for throne, however, on your heart. Her lips parted, but no phrases got here. Her knees felt inclined, her pleasure slipped like water from her hands, and then heckest her. The world disappeared. There became no palace, no kingdom. No choose out simplest arms, simplest warmth. What followed became not violent, however volcanic. Her body shook, the mattress creaked with ancient rhythm. Her moans stuffed through like songs. She screamed, gnawing her from ache. But from the relays, from freedom, from in the long run letting Bippus outdoor. The guards grew to grow to better heads. The maids protected their myths. No person had ever heard that sound come from the royal chamber. No one had ever heard the Iron Princess spoiled inner, even because it had become all over. She lay on his chest breathless, her pores and pores and pores and skin heat, her coronary heart huge open. She had fought the arena for goodbye. However, this night time she alone guy win, and he or she did not regret it, no, not even for a second. The morning sun slipped quietly into Princess Chica's room. Birds sang outdoor. The palace slowly began out to wake. But internal her chamber all had become nevertheless. Chica opened her eyes with a small smile. Her body felt inclined, but her heart beckoned entire the mattress and up. Warmness, the air gentle, she became to the companionachiving for Ibuka. But he became a long past. She sat up, pressured the door wash, however, locked the window none at the lesklist. She rose from the mattress and referred to as her maid, wherein is he, she requested, keeping her wrapper tight round her. Whom, my princess, the girl asked softly. Ibuka. Chica stated. The guards say they saw him enter. The maid responded, however, no man or woman saw him depart. Chica dressed rapid and walked immediately to the royal chamber. King Okena and Queen Adana have been consuming quietly. Chica walked in and stood tall. I have decided on, she stated. I've observed my husband. The king dropped hiccup. The queen blinked. Who the king asked slowly. His call is Ibuka. Ibuka, the king echoed. Unsure. Chica nodded. The king clapped times. Guards rushed and find this Ibuka, carry him to the throne room. They bowed and left. Even as the king paced and waited, Queen Adonor lower back quietly to her daughter's chamber. She desired to look him for herself. She desired to verify what she had suspected. She heard that preceding night time, so she walked in Therum, although smelled of heat and something wild. The mattress sheets had been tis, the air changed into heavy, and on pillow in which his head half to have rested it become a black feather prolonged clean. Remarkable. The queen picked it up cautiously. Her palms began to shake. She did not recognize it, however her heart cautioned her. It intended something not of this global. She tucked feather into her wrapper and left the room that night because the solar dipped low and the guards yet empty surpassed Queen Adana made her way another time to the sacred grove, to the blind priestess of Annie. The priestess sat within the equal spot, eyes white as clouds. She did not stay up for the queen to communicate. She certainly stated the chicken has flown, but its shadow nevertheless sleeps in her. Queen Adona fell to her knees. What does it advocate? She requested Thepriestus smiled, now not kindly but knowingly, now not all men walk oft. She said a few or sent a few most powerful stay for the night time, Thuan blew softly, the queen held the feather near her chest, and in her coronary harda. Quiet fear commenced to develop, her hand pressed tightly in competition to her chest her eyes were. Great, however, Hermith couldn't go together with the flow then in. A voice gentle and shaking she whispered, it has started out. The priestess of Annie nodded slowly, her blind eyes handling Thesky. She stretched her vintage fingers in the direction of the queen, and stated, you requested approximately the panther for your dream. No, I am in a function to tell you. Queen Adana sat at the floor listening like an infant. The priestess located both palms on this planet and began to talk. The Black Panther is a spirit of the vintage world, Witterabust, silent, untouchable. It does now know not bow, it does now not beg even because it intersa. Girl's room, it does now not ask for permission, it involves damage, it invulveshik, it comes to rouse. What pride has buried on your dream? The panther entered her chamber, it left blood no longer to damage. However, to mark trade, Queen Adana started Udo. Weep so Ibuka, she requested, trembling. Thepriestus nodded as soon as he grew to become Mainto. No longer born of this earth, highs and always like exclusive men. He came from the gods dispatched to test your daughter's soul, to expose her the limits of her strength, to break what grew, to turn out to Bainto, to tough and melt what end up to bloodless. He did not come to marry her, he came to finish his mission now. He's gone. The wooded vicinity grew quiet even. The wind seemed to prevent Queen Adana held. The feather tighter shellows him, she said softly. Certain Thepriestus spoke back. This is the charge of awakening lower back on the palace. Topics had been no longer the equal princessika, now not walked like a queen, shoe walked like a lady. Who were held like a girl who had felt she did not talk. Besides, a person asked her a quirish. No longer rolled her eyes or reduced human beings with phrases she now paused earlier. Then talking smiled without pleasure, shall have come to be modified. A few stated. She had fallen from grace, she has embarrassed the royal family. She gave herself to a terrible palm wine tapper, no matter the whole thing that bride and arrogance. Ho will need her now, but others checked at her and stated she is sparkling her steps. Calm, there can be peace in her eyes, she said little. However, when requested about what happened, she said only this, I met a man I out of worry myself, and I am now not sorry. However, Thepalace gates continued to shake with noise. The chiefs collected. The elders murmured. The royal drums stopped beating. Word had unfolded. Princess Chica, the Famaluho, as soon as ruled at the facet of her satisfaction, had given herself to a person. Hovanished like smoke, some stated had become a ghost, some say he have emerged. Asa spirit in human pores and pores and pores and skin, some swore she had been cursed. But none of them knew the fact, and Chica stated no, not something Chief Akafor vintage. And proud stood inside the royal courtroom docket and raised his voice. She has brought him to the royal name. She has shared her mattress with someone no individual can discover, no bride rate, no blessing, no call. Others nodded, but Queen Adana stood beside her daughter. And whilst the king grew to be requested what punishment might come, he looked at Chica, then decreased his eyes. He had no solution from that day. Chica stopped wearing royal colors, she wearing white smooth plain wrappers. That flowed even as walked she. Eliminated her beads, she left a royal chamber and in no way slept there once more. The room have emerged as locked, the essential component had become thrown into the sacred river. No one found that room. All over again, the humans watched her shut and cry. She did not argue, leisurely moved like character. Who had deedened are available, decreased once more to life 1 week later. She made her final desirine, the front of the courtroom docket with calm lips. She said, I now not want to be heir to the throne, my crown modified into pleasure. I wore it to lengthy, now I will position Adonkasi and gasp stuff the room. The king's hands trembled, but he did not forestall her. Chica stepped down and walked out. Unfastened weeks surpassed than months, and a few thing new commenced started to accumulate. The younger girls off Humanachi now not to educate them away to rule, however the manner to experience a way to understand there are bodies they way to agree with their hearts, a way to attend no longer for riches or titles or energy. But for a person who simply sees them, she endorsed them, a man who kneels earlier than your splendor. Is simple to discover, however, the person who holds your spirit. Without shaking that one is ungemancht, taught them how to stroll tall on dalso. The manner to sit thoth manner to select out softness without same a manner to lose manage. And nevertheless stay whole, her voice have turned out to be quiet recognition. Within the village, and even though she now not wore the crown many known as her queen chica, despite the fact that, and someplace deep within Thepple lace, and in the back of a locked doran, a room complete of silence, lay unmarried black feather untouched. Unmoving, however, in no manner forgotten years passed the village of Humanachi changed children. Grew up new faces, filled the market, however one factor stayed, same Princess Chica. She in no manner married, in no way wore gold, once more Shennet sat inside the palace halls, but people even though greeted her with admire no longer as a ruler, however as a woman who had walked through heart hand returned in her quiet room. There has been a small wooden subject. Interior that container lay the black feather, she in no way touched it, she in no manner confirmed every body. However, she opened the sector regularly, actually, to look one night time. The rain chamomiled within the starting. Then heavy thusky grew to become gray. The wind pushed that ember, however, Chica felt peace. She stood throth usage of her window barefoot. She closed her eyes. And some aspect indoors her sade move. She stepped into the rain. Without our upper, no rings, no footwear, she walked band. The palace beyond the circulate past Thespicum wood and into the coronary heart of the wooded place there below the historical palm tree. Modified into someone older, however silent, his chest endure high-sized calm Ibuka. He did no longer bypass, however, he checked out her this time regarded. And smiled. Chica fell to her knees no longer as a princess, not as Ality with electricity. However, as a girl burned, the rain soaked her hair again, her feet she did no longer care. She changed into home, she end up entire, and for the primary time in years she screamed, but this time it turned out to be now not from ache, not from confusion. Now not from give up, it had become from Pradesh crawled into his arms, held his face with shaking arms, and whispered through her tears, I knew you'll come again to me.